of two neurodiverse children, Abby blends research-based literacy instruction with deep empathy and encouragement to help students build confidence and thrive. Welcome, Abby.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Leanne, for bringing me here. Now, before I begin, I wanted to let you know there are things on the chairs if you need something to hold on to or touch. A lot of times when I start with students, I bring my what I call Mary Poppins bag, and it has lots of squishies in it and sometimes sprays in it. You can hear me now? Good. So I want you to close your eyes for a moment, and I want you to think back to a time when you are sitting at your kitchen table and you have a student next to you, maybe it's your child, and the student takes this big breath. And you see the frustration in their shoulders, and you hear that sigh. It surrounds their whole body. And then you hear these two words that are so crushing. It hurts your ears. I can't. I can't do it. I can't try anymore. I can't learn this way. If you've heard those words, raise your hand. You are in the right room then. Every single person in this audience knows that feeling of watching someone you care about struggle. Now take a deep breath. Let's breathe a few times because I need to make sure my body is ready to do this. Here we go. When we watch children and adults struggle, it's really hard. And for me, it brought me to where I am today. We don't want anyone to be defeated by the system that they work in, whether it is at school or by a friend or by their boss. As Leanne said, my name is Abby Belasco, and I am the founder of Can Do Learners. And I'm going to talk about a couple students that I work with, and some of my own children, where thankfully one of them is here today, because I want to give you the tools to help you replace I can't with I can. So thank you for joining me this morning. If you're interested in participating in a raffle for a free assessment session, this is the QR code, and there's also one in the back. So please do that, and we're going to pull a name. I'm reminding my husband, we're going to pull a name at the end of the presentation. Can Do Learners has 30 tutors that work with children of all different ages. Now, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. The way that Leanne and I met is that I worked at the school where her kids used to attend in Superior, Colorado, and I worked there for 15 years. It was the most amazing school. While I worked there, I earned my master's degree at CU Boulder, and I became National Board Certified in 2013. I have 2 smart, spunky, neurospicy kids, and 1 incredible husband, and they have all helped me get to here today. I Many of my tutors have licenses. One of my favorites is here right now. Her name is Jessica, and she brought one of the grandmothers of our student. And many of my tutors are trained in Orton-Gillingham. I'm here to share what I've learned about taking your student from I can't to I can. And it's not just my professional philosophy, it's also my personal story. When I was little, I loved two things. Imagining that I was the teacher, and I had a whole group of students in front of me, and I loved creating things. And the things I hated most, ready for this, kids? Reading and writing. I hated it. My mom used to bribe me to read. And my mother, who is thankfully still with us, she's in Florida, she is a speech therapist. She's retired now. But she realized in the late 1970s that something was not exactly right with me at school. My older siblings sailed through school and had very little problems, but every day it was agony for me. I would cry and come home with so much frustration. And my mom, because she was an educator, started searching to find somebody who could figure out what was going on inside my brain. And I explain this to kids a lot of times. We can't just open up your brain and look inside and say, there's some learning disabilities here, or there's a little ADHD over there, right? You can't do that. So she found what we would now call a neuropsychologist, and I was diagnosed with learning disabilities. As an adult, I've self-diagnosed myself with ADHD. My mom decided that the learning disabilities in my brain were kind of like cobwebs. And since we've just celebrated Halloween, lots of us know what those cobwebs look like with those layers. And she felt that I needed someone to help me remove the layers so that I could do my best. Now remember, this is in the early 1980s. I'm in about 4th grade. And the terms neurodiversity, ADHD, and autism, they weren't part of the conversation. No one talked about it because they really just didn't know. But my creative mother found something that I love to this day, Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss and Shel Silverstein became two of my favorite authors because they got me interested in poetry, and they were short. I could read it and then I could go do something else. After the testing that we did, my parents also decided together to change my environment, that the school that I was going to was not working out very well. And with my mother's guidance, they shifted my mindset so that I got some help from someone. And that amazing person, here's a picture of her right here, is my very good friend and mentor, Lydia Soifer, who lives in New York City, and I still talk to her now. She helped me learn to organize my brain. We did a lot of color coding of things and indenting for notes, and I realize now as an adult, she was teaching me executive functioning skills that were helping to organize my brain. I met with her every week, and my father drove me every week, picked me up from school, took me for a snack, and then brought me to her office. Once, we even edited a paper together over the payphone for a project that I had to do at school. Now, technology has changed so much, but with my parents' guidance and my hard work, I shifted my mindset at this new school, and I repeated 6th grade. Now, I talked to a lot of parents, should a kid repeat? Should we repeat? Should we do this? When you look at me, you cannot tell that I have repeated 6th grade. If parents think that you should repeat something and they get advice from those very important therapists, it's probably a good idea. So, my mom reframed it not as a failure, but as an opportunity. Eventually, I started to learn to ask more questions, and I learned to advocate for my needs. And if you have a middle schooler or a high schooler, you know they need to learn to advocate for themselves, because as an adult, there are not others who are going to do that for you. So, today I stand before you as a neurodiverse leader of a business that helps students find their path. I love guiding students to realize their potential because the world just keeps changing and we all need some help. Through all my experiences working with kids for almost 30 years now, I developed the steps for what I call sharing the pencil. It started with one of my favorite students. Don't tell her that though, she's not here. And she's one of my longest running students, Olivia. Her mother was desperate to find a kind and patient teacher to help her struggling first grader. When we first met, she was so sweet and loving and kind, but she didn't want to write anything down. She was afraid to write. She preferred that I write everything for her. So we would go back and forth, sharing the pencil and taking turns. Now, when I say sharing the pencil, we both have a pencil at the same time. And we're taking turns. And this was a slow process, but I wasn't giving up. I was lucky enough to see her twice a week for about 4 years. And we also started writing positive affirmations together. I would write them and she would copy them. Here's an example that she wrote on the bottom. My brain is growing, I am smart, I am brave, I can do hard things. Every time we met, it would be the same phrase. But the best part was, she would start saying it to herself. Because that voice that's inside of our head is a really powerful one. And I also started doing this with my son, Breck. He was 7 at the time, and we were in the midst of COVID. I had to find something to soothe his heart. I once gave someone a hug in front of him during COVID, and he said, "Mom, you can't do that." And it broke my heart right there. So I started stating this phrase to him. I am brave, I am strong, I can do hard things. I would say it before I dropped him off at school, after I kissed his knee from a fall, and many times he would just ignore me. But I still use those words. I still use them today when I'm getting ready for this presentation, reminding myself. Now, you all remember the crazy days of 2021 and 2022 when we were careful about everywhere we went. And to be in a space like this was almost unimaginable. Well, many of my tutors, including Jessica, took on the challenge. We would meet with kids on porches with masks on because good teachers love teaching kids. Then I did a little research and I found out that there was someone named Claude Steele at Stanford, and he created a self-affirmation theory. He said if we focus on the values that we have, could be strength, could be courage, we are often reminded of our self-worth. And every person that I know, every person in this room, we're all looking to be seen and loved and appreciated just the way we are. Positive self-affirmations bring that value and love forward, and it rewires our brains. Now, during the months of COVID, which seemed like it was never going to end, our teenager, who is now a freshman at CU Boulder, was a complete and total mess. He was failing school, he wouldn't leave his room, and when he came out finally in the springtime and I got him walking outside, he was white as a ghost. So I started thinking, what can I do to help him? We need to change the narrative of you can't do this, you can't do that, to what can you do? And then I go back to the positive affirmations. I am brave, I am strong, I am capable, my thoughts are smart, I love the earth below my feet. If anybody's heard of grounding, walking on grass is really good for us. The other thing that we use often, and some of you have the spray there, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, is a fresh spray is really nice. It's also very good if you're in menopause, to make sure you have a little water to keep you cool. So I created the can-do method. The can-do method includes using fidgets, because when you hold something in your hand, you are more likely to be able to listen to what's going on in front of you. Working as a partner with your student by sitting close to them, not above them, as if they're below you, but right next to them. Building a connection by talking about their experiences and writing about them is so important. And those positive affirmations, they work. They rewire the brain so that you think positively about what you're doing. And I also encourage daily reading and writing as a family, with one of your kids, with a grandparent. A lot of schools got rid of homework because it was causing too much stress. But what about the connection that it creates? Now, my wonderful husband here and my son, one of the things that they bonded over was baseball. So before bed, they would listen from Audible to stories about baseball. And it created the most beautiful connection. Because when you share a book with a child, you have to stop everything else in the world and focus on what's going on right there. I'm so excited. We have a whole bunch of librarians here from Douglas County. Librarians are amazing.
We have Libby, so you don't have to use Audible.
Yes. Libby is free and it's fantastic, so I definitely recommend it.
From anywhere in Colorado, if you have an address.
Yes.
In Colorado, you can get a library card from any place in Colorado.
So step 5, daily reading and writing activities. If you guys took your kids in this great place, write about it tonight. It's a wonderful thing to do. Don't correct anything, just let them write. Teach caregivers to use a visual schedule and a calendar so students know what's coming next. I don't know how many times I've heard the question, well, what are we gonna do? What happens next? I promise, when you have a calendar and your child can put information on there and remember, it makes it much easier because there will always be the next day, thankfully. The sun is going to come up tomorrow. This is not the end. These steps for the can-do method tap into all the different learning channels: auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and tactile. Another thing I like to do with my students is give them gum when I work with them, because it calms the body down. And because I'm a baseball mom, what kind of gum do I have? Big League Chew. Okay? Kids love Big League Chew and bubble tape. They sell it at Home Depot, and I actually saw it at King Soopers yesterday. They need that input, just like you would get when you're eating pretzels or potato chips. You need that big chompiness. Anyway, back to you. Okay. The next thing that I brought in and learned over COVID and from all these students was using the 3 C's: connection, communication, and confidence. And Can Do Learners tutoring program invites all of those pieces. I had to recognize with Olivia that she needed something to hold, that taking the things away from her wasn't going to work. She actually needed to hold something. That is how she stayed self-regulated and stayed focused. Now, some of you may have seen on your chairs confidence spray. I invented confidence spray because I was really frustrated during COVID. I am a people person. I was going crazy. Everyone seems to have lost their confidence about going out into the world. What's it gonna be like? Who's gonna be there? Am I gonna be safe? Is this person going to make me sick? And it broke my heart. So I invented confidence spray, and there are directions around. I used it yesterday. Can I have this one back? Just the bottle. I put a red line in, which I kind of wish I didn't use red, but I put a red line in so the kids don't fill it all the way to the top and then it overflows, okay? But the purpose of the rest of this part here is for you to write down the things that your human needs help with. Do they need help riding a bike? Do they need help writing an essay? And you can write it right on the label and then shake it and spray. And again, so good for menopause. Okay? Now, if you'd like to change the color, you can use food coloring, or you can use a little paint. You can put anything you want in here. But the idea is that it tells my students in a fun, clear way that I believe in you, and I think you can do it. Add some water, put in some glitter, find a quiet place, imagine you are strong, confident, and you can do anything with ease, and then write down the areas that you need help with. This is also helpful if you're moving someone into a retirement facility, or you're moving someone into a new apartment. I've considered sharing this with some of my friends who are realtors. We need that piece. And by using something in your hand, it puts the power back in the person, back to the person. So, I was with Olivia, back to Olivia now. She had a friend over during one of our sessions, and I'm a teacher, so I'm creative, and I said, "Oh, Raina, would you write Olivia a letter? Because I'm trying to get her to write more in her sentences." And this was a real life activity. So she wrote, "Dear Olivia, you're the best friend ever. You're so funny. And thank you for letting me stay over. Thank you, Olivia. Love, Raina." Olivia was so excited. A real letter. So she wrote back to her. Now, they're in the same house, in different rooms, okay? "Dear Raina, thank you for helping me with math. Now I wrote this sentence. Thank you for sleeping over." And then Olivia wrote, "Thank you for to the Barbie movie. Oh, thank you for going to the Barbie movie. I love you, Raina. She is my best friend. Love, Olivia." And then Raina wrote back, "Dear Olivia, yes, I will go to the Texas Roadhouse with you. I really like steak. You're really funny and nice. Love, Raina." This was probably the first time she had written a letter to a friend. And it was a real life activity. Now, if you're a grandparent, how much would you like to get a letter from your grandchild? But people stopped sending letters for some reason. Everything is on technology. But my parents, they're in their 80s. They've been through a lot. Their favorite thing to get is a letter from their grandchildren, and they save all of them underneath their kitchen table. So you can see all the thank you notes that they've written. This is a great activity where you can share the pencil with your child. So, sharing the pencil has 4 main steps. First, we brainstorm together. It could be about anything. We could write about baseball. We could write about the trip to the Wings Over the Rockies Museum. We could write about Halloween. Kids like to write about something that's happening. The problem is they don't know how to spell all the words. So I, as their teacher, I take on all the steps. I'm doing all the writing. And then we move on to organizing their thoughts with numbers. We decide together, which of these do you think should go first? And we have a conversation. And then we put numbers. Oh, this is going to be 1. This is going to be 2. I think this should go at the end. And it organizes it for the child or the student. And then, this is my favorite part, we create 3 different beginnings. I usually have to give and write the first one because of so many people just look at that blank piece of paper and say, I'm not going to do this. This is too much. This is too scary. I have shame about this because when I wrote before, it didn't work out. So I give the first example. Then I'm going to show you some more of these as we go. And then I ask them to give me the second sentence. What is another way we could start? Now, as we get older, we're doing topic sentences. But for younger kids, we're just writing the beginning sentence. That's all they need to know. And then for the third one, I like to use something that has either an exclamation or some sort of exciting word, like, wow, did you see that? Because it brings the reader back in. And then I take the paper and I move it over to the student. And I have them pick which of these is the best first sentence. And they get to decide. Because it's their story, not mine. So here I show you. This was a plan I did with somebody. We were writing a letter to the principal. We brainstormed the ideas. And then we used numbers so that they could order the writing. And we're having a conversation back and forth. So this is another student I worked with, William, who was in 4th grade. I'm going to talk about him in a little bit. And this is how he wrote his letter. We started with the brainstorming ideas. And then here are the 3 different starting sentences. Dear Principal Hyatt, because it had to start like that. Dear Principal Hyatt, first line. Either we created a game to see if the boys or the girls were better at being silent, or this past week was very challenging at school, or this was a game to see which gender was better. Now this is all about a book called No Talking by Andrew Clements. That's what he's referring to, because when you get into 4th grade and 5th grade at school, that's what you need to do. You need to no longer just read, you need to write about what you read. And I heard a parent say this, I want to make sure everybody knows. Up until 3rd grade, kids are learning how to read typically. After 3rd grade, they are reading to learn. If you think about social studies and science textbooks, We need to learn those skills. For many people, they only reach that 3rd and 4th grade area. They don't go beyond that. The inferencing skills and all the comprehension pieces and taking pieces from different parts of the story, that happens in 4th and 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th grade. And then eventually my son is now in 7th grade. He's reading Animal Farm, which is an allegory that represents a whole nother story that goes on. You can't do that if you can't do this. You've got to start from here. So here's the letter, and you can see the handwriting kind of, this is William's handwriting. This is what he came up with. And I always date the page because I like to see how a student has grown over time. And thankfully I had all these pictures on my phone because I actually did it right after the session. Dear Principal Hyatt, we created a game to see if the boys or the girls were better at being silent. By 5th grade, we're more like brothers and sisters than in 4th grade. So the words we say are not always kind. Sorry we did not follow your directions. I spent 2.5 days almost completely silent and counting words. I learned that each word should count. From now on, I will use my words wisely. And here's the end of it. And I started out writing because he kind of needed a break, and I'm going to give you guys a break in a minute. From this game, I can honestly say talking to these girls is frustrating because the teachers favor girls and they choose them more often. And now you can see my writing. I also think they talk too much. I would like the girls to think before they're talking and use their words wisely. Finally, I did not like ending the game in a tie, but sometimes that's how it goes. And then I wrote in from thanks, and then he should have written his name. But we just kept going back and forth as he's writing, and he feels more confident because I'm with him. I'm communicating with him, and he can do it. So the next step about William I want to talk about is I worked with him over the summer. And one of the complicated parts about William, sadly, is that when he was in 4th grade, he should have been going and getting minutes with a special ed teacher. But unfortunately, his special ed teacher was ill. And she was ill the whole first semester, and then she passed away in January of last year. And about 22 kids at this particular elementary school lost their minutes and lost their teacher because there was no one to jump in and take over for a special ed teacher in the middle of the year. So his mom was so thrilled that I was going to help him and work with him over the summer so that when he came back to school this fall, he would be not so behind when he got to 5th grade. And there were 2 really cool things about William that I hooked into. One was that he was starting to become a runner. I don't know if any of you know about Girls on the Run. They do them at a lot of schools. Well, his dad decided, you know what? We need a running group for the boys. So he started doing a running group throughout the rest of the school year, and William started getting involved in it. And one of the things I heard from him was over the summer, I'm like, so how's your room going? Is your room clean? He said, well, it was at one point, but I've been so busy doing so many different things, I don't really have any time. So I went on a piece of paper and I wrote down for him, I said, William, here's what we need to do. We need to write down the steps to clean your room. Number 1, put all your laundry into the laundry bin. Number 2, take everything else and put it into categories that are similar. Step 3, throw out anything that's garbage. Now, Breck, does this sound familiar to you? Yeah. Okay, those 3 bins, garbage, laundry, and putting things in groups. We got to get rid of some of our stuff, too much. And then William sent me his picture of his clean room. And he had a really big smile. You'll see his smile in a minute. But I posted this on Facebook because I thought it was fantastic. The same skills that we need to write in an organized fashion help us to clean our room. So when you keep saying, just go clean your room, a lot of kids don't know what to do. What does that mean? We need to break down the steps for them. And here's William. At the end of the summer, he kept doing mini races. And in our neighborhood in Central Park, we have a neighborhood triathlon. And he trained, one day he would swim, one day he would run, one day he would bike. And as I worked with him in the summer, we made a schedule. And here he is at the end of the triathlon, so happy because he accomplished that. Now, he didn't accomplish it because his father yelled at him. He didn't accomplish it because his mother reminded him 20 times to do something. He did it because he wanted to. And I find that nothing good ever gets accomplished from yelling. No good decisions are made from yelling. So we gotta put the yelling away. That way doesn't work. The can-do method works. Positive affirmations work. Creating plans, writing down schedules. That's what we as adults and adolescents need. So, that is my presentation. I've left out a few pieces, added a few more, but I want to know, while my husband finds out who our winner is from the QR codes. Can you do that?
On your
You
computer.
can pause. You think I can do that? Okay, hold on. We're going to take a break for 5 minutes, and then we're going to find out who the winner is. Please find somebody in the room and talk to them about how you can use sharing the pencil or the can-do method with someone you know. And then I'll be back with the winner. Thank you.